So, open the meeting of the Open Space Committee, Town of Newbury, on October the 15th, yes. And what's our first order of business? I guess first of all, we should find out who's here, shouldn't we? So present, David Powell.
Bill Hoffman.
Mike Carboni.
Jim Dooley, not an official member still.
Kristen Grubbs.
You're finding it difficult to find your way to town hall during the daytime?
It's
Is
been a
that-
lot of things.
Yeah, right,
It will, yes.
right. Well, I'll send you a map. Of the Open Space Committee, the least we can do. So, should we do the minutes first of the
Yes.
meeting? I think,
Citizen
yes, is
queries.
that what's first on our agenda?
First with the citizen.
Oh, you have it,
Yeah.
see, I didn't print it out, right. Well, we don't have any citizens' queries,
We do not.
unless you have a query, Jim.
No queries.
Okay, so,
So then it's review and approve the minutes from the last meeting.
right,
Some one extra item. So everybody-
yeah.
Do you want them? Do you have them?
I don't, I do in here, but I don't have a, okay, right. Okay, would somebody like to propose that we accept the minutes?
I'll propose to accept the minutes.
Okay, somebody like to second that?
Seconded.
Okay, so how do we vote on that? Or, the three of us, I think, vote aye, right? Yeah.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, great.
Has the, like, format and everything for the minutes been okay? Anything I should be trying to do different with those or anything?
Looks great.
No, I
Great.
think that they'd be fine, and thank you for doing it, because it's, you know, in many ways, a thankless task, so thank you. Yeah. And, so, our current agenda seems to look to you for a report on whether we are in favor with the state.
Yeah, so put that as an item on the agenda thinking I would have heard something by now, and I haven't, which is unusual because they generally have made their awards by the end of September. So I thought 15th gives them a little time, but
So nobody's been awarded it?
I haven't
We've
heard
of.
anything, yeah. There's definitely has not been an official announcement, and I haven't heard anything unofficially yet either, so.
If we got the grant, when does it need, the monies need to be spent by? Does it say, or?
I think those are fiscal year monies, yeah. So it's June 30th.
Yeah, and, you haven't had much experience with these either, I guess, but I was wondering if they have no cost extensions. Something like that. Just if it
Yeah.
took much longer, that's all.
I'm not sure. I have some experience with state grants that are, you know, annual fiscal cycle, and they're pretty strict about it.
Yeah,
If you know, are still working on it in July, but pretty much, particularly if you've hired a contractor, they really try to keep you to that, so.
okay.
Yeah, so I didn't even, again, if I had news one way or another, I thought it would have been helpful to like go back through the proposal and just sort of remind ourselves, because I haven't looked at it in a few months either, but. I mean, I think we structured it thinking by the time you contract, like even if they told us in September, it might be November by the time you contract with it, so I think we're still on task
Yeah.
with what we were setting out to do with that, which was essentially to help us complete the plan, but using the assistance of Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. They have, by the way, hired a new environmental program manager. Can't remember if we talked about that at this meeting or not. Adrienne Lennon, who is great. She's got a lot of experience on that. And she lives in Amesbury. She's been on the Open Space Committee. I think she's on the City Council, but she's also part of a lot of the regional environmental groups, and previously was working as a environmental consultant with one of the big engineering firms like Ty and Bond or VHB, I'm not sure.
She was the Gloucester agent for a little while too, years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very interested in climate resiliency and coastal issues, and I think she'll be a great. So she is taking Cece's position, and Hannah Mogensen is still part of the environmental team, and they have there are 3 of them now. There's also a new hire who's mostly focusing on the energy stuff. So I haven't, again, I'm crossing my fingers about the grant, but I figured I should wait before circling up with Adrienne and sort of talking to her about what we envisioned, how we envisioned working with them, so.
So she would be, if there's, pardon me, still behind it, doing the kinds of things that we talked about when we had the Zoom meeting, right?
Right.
That's what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
which is a.
Now, I happen to be going, well, you may be going, are you going to Thursday's
I am.
thing? Okay.
Yes. I
Well,
will be at this.
maybe we can back her, because I'm going too, maybe we can back her into a call now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it would be,
Lots of
it
business
might be an
to
appropriate
happen.
opportunity
Yeah,
so that she
Yeah.
gets to know that there's something, real and active and going on.
yeah,
Great.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
MVBC are having a 65th, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, 65th anniversary thing, and I'm, as a former commissioner, I get to go, eat canapé or whatever they're offering. Right.
Yeah, I've never been to one. Martha said, I can't believe it's been 5 years. And I said, oh, did they have a 60th party? Did you attend that one?
They had a 50th,
Yeah.
60th,
She said they had some nice dinner.
I'm trying to think, they had it, I think it was Northern Essex. Anyway, this time we're going to Methuen Golf Club or
Yeah.
something, which I guess, in the past we've had them at Haverhill Golf Club,
Okay.
but people complained about the bar prices, so which was a bit tacky. Yes, anyway,
So, yeah,
right.
I will certainly send an email as soon as I hear anything about the grant, if it's in advance of our next meeting.
What do you expect to hear? How is this a new kind of thing, or do they have a pattern in the sense that they say initially yes, but don't tell you any money amount, or do you get everything, or is it?
I have not seen a Community Ones Up award, so I don't know, but I'm assuming they'll say, we're giving you an award and this is what it is.
And then so we'll get an amount.
Yeah. I
So
think
we'll be able to sort of plan, if we get
Yeah.
it, to plan from
I think
day
we
one.
should.
Yeah, okay.
And I assume the way it works then is the town has a mechanism to take the monies and put it into some
Yeah.
account, and then we can,
Sort
once the
of
work's
be
done. we can
travel
invoice.
through,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, now,
it would be accepted by the select board, put into a fund under, and open spaces under planning, so it'd be somehow under the planning department, and then we could
Is there,
recontract out with Merrimack Valley Planning.
is there indirect associated with that? Like, the state has indirect charges, or universities, if they take money, they'll take a cut for managing money?
No.
No?
The town?
Yeah, they probably should.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's a good
No, the
question.
town has an.
Unless we budgeted it,
Yeah,
you
so
know.
the town has another unfortunate habit, which is to put it in the general fund,
Yeah.
which means it disappears, but in this case, they can't.
Yeah, it's for the specific
Yeah,
Okay,
purpose,
good.
yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great.
I just say they can't, but I'm pretty sure they can't.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Does anyone object if I call Ella? She's ready.
Oh, great,
She's curious, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
that'd be great.
Oh,
Hi,
Hi,
yes, there she is.
can you see us? Or, I'm not doing the camera very well, so you can't see us, but
She always seems to be.
Oh, it's pointing the other way.
locomotion.
I'm pointing the wrong
Oh,
way.
I
man.
know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm pointing the wrong way. Hang on, see this, you can tell how often I do this.
There you go.
Yes. Just keep going.
Great. What's the next item?
We have public outreach and engagement
Right.
opportunities.
Yeah.
So, at the last time we met, we looked at a bunch of questions that were emailed out. Everybody thought they looked good. I haven't looked at them since. I know that they could be sharpened up a little bit, but they were pretty, there was like 5 or 6 questions, they were pretty quick. And it's a good way to standardize, I think, what we were gonna do. My thoughts were, is if everybody's good with those, and we think we could get everything, then we could even, probably Christina and I will take one more look at it and sharpen them up and then send them out to the group. We had a list of people that we would be speaking to, so that would be included in the list. And then we can start going out and talking to different organizations. The thought is that we create some type of like a simple master table once we get feedback. So if you went and talked to an organization, whether you, however you want to record the information, the data is fine, but if you could type it up in some Word document or use the table, and then at some point we could combine those comments. And they, I mean, they don't have to be huge, you know, multi-paragraph answers, they could just be to the point. And then, at least that way, when we move forward, we'll have that document ready to go. I assume, once we start this document, there would be some type of folder, or is there like a Google Drive or something that we could access? So we can all contribute?
That would
You-
be good. It's a little bit, I mean, there isn't one that exists. There is a committee or two that uses a Dropbox. So I know that that is possible. But there's always, if you're actually, you can't deliberate even on technology, so you can't like actively have discussions
Yeah.
through the document, so there's a little bit of funkiness around the
So if I put in like
open meeting law.
track changes and stuff like that, that doesn't flow.
Yeah, let me talk to our technology guy and see, I mean, Google Drives would be great. I think we're going in the direction of like SharePoint or Google Drive, but
Yeah.
haven't gotten there yet. And I don't know if it extends within town staff versus volunteer committees. I just haven't really heard how they're envisioning that yet.
Okay, that would be interesting. I mean, at some point we're gonna put pen to paper. So.
Yeah,
I hope.
yeah,
how I'm
I would like
obviously
to
a
be
technical,
done.
you know, technically innocent here. How do you sort of envisage that in terms of its, you know, input and involvement? Because I'm a bit confused that you may be talking across one another, because if it's a tool and we use it as a tool, that's not that's not covered by the open meeting law, as I understand it.
Well, what do you mean by a tool? Using it as a tool?
Well, okay, using it to think about, let's say, developing priorities. Okay, now if you go into there and you look at it and use it as a tool to inform your own thinking, right? Or are you thinking about using it in a more active way?
Yeah, I mean, you know, being new to it, I'm not clear exactly how this is gonna go down and what role Merrimack Valley's gonna play. Like, we could just be like, here you go, do it, and then they come back to us with a draft and be like, how's this look? Or we're gonna be, depends on the funding, I suppose. We say, okay, we're gonna work on these sections, we're gonna give all the mapping and stuff to Merrimack Valley. And so then we would have a working document that we could actually go in and be like, yeah, this is all outdated, and then you can highlight it and put a comment saying, this needs to be updated. Like, we were just skimming through it, and there's a lot of, like, there's really good information in there, but there's some stuff that's certainly dated, and we're like, okay, this is, could be highlighted, and then whether we're the ones that do some of the editing for others to review. So we'd be like, here's our
Okay,
changes,
well-
and then you review it and say, yeah, I accept
Yeah, but
these changes.
that's, right, so that's not a decision-making process. That is a process of sharing updates on material, and then when you would have the meeting, then you would review. You see what I'm trying to say?
I'm
You
just
know?
kind of wondering, in the sense that if we're
Yeah,
drafting something that's, let's just say notes and so
right,
on, but that it gets to a point where it's versioned for a meeting,
yeah,
and that
and-
becomes shared by an email or whatever.
Yeah,
You know, is that good enough?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's a question, right? Just, we have to, we gotta work together on a document. It
Right.
doesn't make sense for us to come in and stay here till midnight working on it together. We
Right.
can all go home, work on
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
We're all working on the same document at the exact same time, because it's in the cloud in a drive.
Right.
So then we just do our sections, and then we can come back and say, okay, we can go buzz through our changes, so it's all done. It'll be really efficient that way.
And make that
Right.
that's the official meeting.
so we don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
actually review it and approve it through that process, but through this process is what I'm saying, is,
Seems like that's what we'd have to do.
Right.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because otherwise, well, that's, okay, that's one of the reasons why very often committees like this have gone off and hired consultants, because then the
Right.
consultant does all of that, and
Right.
it takes, the public meeting law thing is often used as a weapon rather than something that actually helps you.
Well,
You know.
I mean, I think that in most cases, in my experience working with town committees, there's a point person. It's either staff or it's one person. In Ipswich, there was one committee member who was like in charge of the update. So everybody, one-on-one, just here you go, you know, and then there's a compiling with one person and then it goes back out. It's obviously more cumbersome than group, you know, one document that we can all see and you don't have to like email it to each other and worry if it's the
Yeah.
right draft and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
wait a minute. No, okay, I think we maybe just have to sort of start doing it and see how it works, but, if you're making it accessible to anyone on the committee or anyone else you want to have look at it, that's not like emailing it. That's-
No, I'm saying that's how it was done.
Oh,
Up
okay,
to, like previously. Now we're talking about, is there a better way that
yeah,
we
right,
can
okay,
use?
yeah,
Yeah, improving, keeping up with technology.
Yeah,
right,
It's just
well,
kinda how we do
exactly,
it these days.
yeah.
yeah. So for the short term, like, can we go back to, because I think we're talking about the whole plan right now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But can we go back to this outreach piece? Because
The
maybe
master table.
that's,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if we have the questions
Right,
and we all have either Google Sheets or Excel on a computer at home, if we keep the questions in the same organization, at a minimum for now, not ideal, we can each do our thing and then one person, and I'm happy to, you know, be the point person if that makes sense. You just send it in and then you merge it, right?
Yeah.
So then we can
Yeah.
put it all together and
Yes.
think about it.
right, sure.
Use a Google form as the input, you could.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a Google form
Easy.
is like made, like set up, you've
Yeah.
probably used it, like with the blanks already created and
For
then,
each question.
Yeah.
And then
it does it itself.
puts it into a spreadsheet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
For you.
each person has questions 1 through 6 and then,
Yeah.
yeah, we can sort it on the questions and
that would work,
Yeah.
like it.
I think that would fall within that. It would become.
Yeah, yeah.
it would-
I mean, I assume you, whoever the author is of the form, I haven't actually used Google Forms recently.
You
But
can
is
use
that how it
them
works? It
for-
just like,
we use-
Yeah.
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 okay. So is that something that, someone wants to create? A Google form?
I'm happy to do it if I'm allowed to,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I don't know, Ella, were you?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if the questions
Well, yeah.
get finessed and, you know, in shape, we can provide them.
Yeah.
To
I could
the
get
Doolin
Ella's
team.
email,
Yeah.
and maybe yours.
Yeah.
Do we should all just have each other's emails. So if you're on-
Well, you should be on it when you get the
Oh, yeah,
agenda,
right.
right? Yeah,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
If I don't have Ella's, I get that one.
Yeah, sure, I'll make sure.
it's just been on the agenda too.
Okay. Then we
But
should be all
I'm
set.
happy to send them around, yeah.
Not to jump too far ahead on actually when we speak to the
Yeah.
outreach itself, or is that something then that could, we want to share the questions ahead of time? Like, is everyone gonna, maybe Bill, I don't want to, or David, I don't want to jump ahead like to how we're gonna do it, the outreach, but is it like phone calls, is it?
Right, yeah.
Can you
we
share the
could-
questions ahead of time, give people time to think, right?
Right, yeah,
Introduce it, set it up, and so on.
yeah,
But that's putting the cart before doors, so.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, we should talk about that,
Yeah.
right? Because we're close to wanting to
Yeah.
start this, so,
I think, it depends how well you know the person. I
Right.
mean, if you need to reach out through email, then say these are the type of things, and feel free to send it out.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the people I know really well, work with every day, so be like, I'll just sit down for, 10 minutes or 15, whatever it takes, and just go through them.
Right,
So I guess I'd just handle it case by case,
Right.
whatever you're most comfortable with.
yeah, that's what I figured.
I guess I have, well, okay, I have a problem with matching the two organizations that I'm opposite in the list, okay, which is the Recreation Department and the Taxpayer Association, right? And, okay, the trustees of reservations was the other one, which doesn't actually show up with my name against it, but probably should, but I wouldn't get anywhere with these 4 questions with the trustees, simply because it's a huge organization, and you're asking for a statement that you can sort of get off their website, in a sense. You know, in other words, Newbury doesn't figure specifically on their radar. And I think to answer any one of these questions, the people who know about Newbury, from my experience, are going to say, oh, we can't speak for the organization. So you're sort of screwed, put it bluntly. What I'm wondering here is the match between the questions and the organizations, because then if you move to the recreation department, they really they're circumscribed in terms of what they can do. So, I don't think they can answer, how could they answer these 4 questions? It's kind of tough.
I don't have the questions right in front of me. Can you just, like, really quickly?
Oh, okay, what is your organization's biggest priority when it comes to open space or recreational space planning for the next 1 to 5 years, 10 years? They could probably answer that question, okay.
Is that specific to Newbury, or no? Just
It
your
wasn't.
organization?
Yeah, I wasn't, and when I was writing it, I was thinking not specific, especially when we're talking about a big organization like trustees, which is
Yeah.
all over,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Thanks.
so, all right. So let's, for a minute, let's stick with the recreation guys. What do you think the town of Newbury's priorities should be for open space or recreational planning? They have just launched a plan with the town, which the town's beginning to work on. All right?
So
in
just
it-
write it down,
Yeah.
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 So just put it in there,
That's the
yeah,
answer.
that's the answer.
And how would the town of Newbury's plan influence or impact your organization's planning or operations? That's almost impossible for them to answer because they don't know what the plan is. And that's true of a lot of organizations, isn't it? You're saying the town of Newbury's plan, what? Well, first of all, what plan? Presumably open space plan, right? Okay, so the last one, how does your organization fund long-term protection of open spaces? They don't, in the case of the recreation guys. What are the pros and cons of your organization's funding plan? Does that relate to just open space, or?
I think that's at least what I was thinking, if
Yeah.
they're involved, yeah. I mean,
Right.
and some of these are, they're gonna say NA.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Just
Exactly.
NA.
Right.
'Cause if you ask the ag community, the funding
Right.
things,
Um,
DNA.
I would, you know, these are just so we can like kind of compare apples to apples, but if they have something else like comments or something else to offer, then definitely great information, and maybe we can record that. So check those boxes, and then if they're like, but let me just tell you, that our organization, open space or something like that, then we can jot those notes down.
Right, okay.
So maybe add another
Another,
general comments, question 5 type of thing, you know?
I think that's right.
Giving space to just free answer, whoever.
Yeah.
It's almost like,
Or
what's your
what I'm-
reaction to
Yeah.
this, right?
What I was wondering was whether it's something a little bit more like feedback specific to this organization. You see what I mean? In other words, you may get comments which only the recreation committee would make.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
And,
that's gonna be true for almost everything outside of maybe the local government side of things, right?
right,
Everybody's gonna have their own kind of specific agenda.
Yep.
and so that gets to be an interesting cross comparison potentially, that if people do have stuff that comes up in talking to somebody, then you get an idea of what's on their mind, you know, in the front of their mind, or near the front, based on having to think about these questions. And I just wondered whether that was an area we need to sort of think about, that it's what, either issues by or feedback raised by the whatever the 4 or 5 initial questions are. And that's why I think with a large organization, that's almost, that probably doesn't work.
If we can get feedback outside of those questions, and then we see a common thread through them, that's gonna be extremely helpful. If we can find common themes through some of these questions, and we're like, okay,
Yeah.
people are on board about supporting open space, and this is how we can maybe incorporate that into the plan, at least when we're writing the plan, keep
Yeah,
that in mind.
right, okay.
I mean, that's kind of the
Mhm.
purpose of this, I think.
Right.
Is to see what at the higher level, the organizations think about open space and approach it. And then when we drill down to the individuals, the citizens, and then the public, then we'll have that. You know, I think this is all just gonna make Mayor McFallon's job so much easier, or ours, it depends if we don't
Right.
agree.
Yeah. And then we may
Okay.
find some surprises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of, I was just thinking, like, it's sort of interesting to have given ourselves the ones we know the best, because it's actually like, then the job is bringing it back to the other people, like, you know the trustees well, I know the trustees well, well, maybe not, Jim, I don't know, you know, so it's sort of interesting,
Yeah.
anyway, like, currently, what are the trustees up to? I don't know, could be different than it was 2 years ago, so that will be, a sharing component will be important.
Well, of course, my answer to that would be, I don't think the trustees know, but that's,
It changes a lot.
yeah. No, I guess what I'm thinking in relation to the organization like that, or anything that's statewide, is it's better to try and focus on the region that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
because that makes more sense than the sort of the big picture thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, I mean it okay. I just, the other thing is I have absolutely no idea. The Plum Island Taxpayers Association could be very interesting, could be quite unprintable too, but anyway. Yeah, okay.
And you can ask if it's on the record or off the record.
Yes, I'm, you know, I'm sure they'll talk to me, but I'm not sure, you know. And the other thing, it did strike me, and I guess, you know, I don't want to make too much of a sort of meal out of this, is we have to be a little careful that we're not appearing to ask about priorities which they don't want to publicly either discuss or share with, you know,
That's okay if they decline to answer the question. It's pretty light in my mind. We're just trying to start the communication flow between these organizations and us, and so they're aware of what we're doing, and
Right.
there's a committee, and
Yeah.
so they're not blindsided, like, here's our plan, this is what we think. It's, you know, these are just creating awareness as much as just trying to get a feel for how they feel about these things.
Sort of socialize it. I mean, I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious. Like, you know, Andy Guess, PTA, you know, was on, I think my name was on that one.
Mm.
And, you know, so I'm kind of curious about that because I think there's potential there to,
Yeah.
for families and others to,
Yeah.
you know,
get more
They become
engaged a
informed,
little bit.
exactly.
Yeah,
Audubon, I think is the other one, and, that'd be kind of interesting in the sense that, since that is countywide, let's say,
Mhm.
right, that folks there may be people there that are very aware of the open space plan
yeah,
for other towns, right? And
Yeah.
just have some, I don't know, maybe just
yeah,
some
what do they
tidbits
know
there.
about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
that's
like
just
that.
my sort of very high level without thinking about it too much.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Yeah.
All right.
We have an abundance of partners,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
we do.
And some we're pretty connected with, like just even you guys around the table, all of us around the table. But,
Yeah.
it's good to be, kinda to articulate, like, this, we're working on this, like, come join us.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds good.
We're still looking at this separately from like community kind of outreach, resident type situation. Like, I know obviously it's a
Right.
whole different set of questions, but we're
Yeah.
kind of like, we're not kind of ready to go asking
With
like,
that kind of survey, like citizen
Yeah,
survey
yeah.
stuff,
yeah, I
yeah.
was just
But that-
scanning the West Newbury open space plan and their survey in the back there. There's just the way they had it set up with graphs and questions and whatnot, but that's different than us kind of doing this first organizational outreach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this does strike me
It's a
that
good
this
reminder,
might
yeah.
inform what's in our residents'
Yeah,
outreach, right?
Mhm.
Definitely.
Because among other things, we might be able to provide people with a better picture of, this, where the town is in terms of, as we've said before, one of the things I think that quite a lot of people who've come to this town in the last decade or so have no idea that it's one of, 3 or 4 towns in the whole state that has more land that can't be built on and that is dedicated to some kind of, preservation, conservation, wildlife, whatever, that makes this place, very different in a whole number of ways. And until you realize that, I think you don't understand. Well, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, what do we need open space for? And there's this sort of standard reaction has been, why do we need an open space committee? We have all that open space.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that's part of what one needs to be able to address too. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay,
Great.
great. All right, so we have, next on agenda to review public access and hiking trails map that Mike gave us our version 2.
Yep, so I took everybody's comments from our last meeting and incorporated it into this draft. I just threw out the Newbury recreational properties title. I think the previous one was the open space, and we had that conversation about, I had public access properties, which, on the original draft. So I made that edit, I labeled everything on the map. I don't know how folks feel, it's obviously tough when it's dropped down to an 8.5 by 11, but how folks maybe feel about, is it too cluttered, or is it missing some things? I added both the upper and lower green, David, based on your
Yep.
observation there. Yeah, looking for feedback.
There are 2 minor little things.
Yeah.
Okay, the trustee's property that you show on Route 1 has a little chip in the top left corner.
Yeah,
That should be pink like the rest of it. Because it is trustee property. The reason why it may not have occurred in some listings is because it had a 21-year lease on it
gotcha.
when it was given to the trustees, and that lease is now run out, and it appears in the assessor's records as trustee property, as it always did. And the other thing is on, Plum Island, the interface between the refuge and the town, we sold that. See, there's a little tiny triangle in pink at the bottom?
Yeah, right at the border with the
Yeah.
refuge?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's right there, there's a little tiny triangle which goes back to, let me get the big, it goes back to the street and down to the beach. Well, we sold that for a rather large sum of money and somebody built a house on it, which has been there for quite a long time. So.
yeah, that just came from the state open space layer.
Yeah,
So,
right, well, which was true probably when they did it, yeah.
Okay, I can look at, I can put the accessory stuff on, but
And it's no
Find my
big deal,
boundaries
except
there.
it would be a surprise to the people who live there to find
Yeah.
out it was public property.
Is this the area you're talking about?
Yes, right there. See that?
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's been sold, yeah.
Yeah,
There it is,
oh yeah,
right there.
okay.
If you guys wanna see.
Yeah.
These are all the up-to-date tax.
it abuts the no-through way, which I can't never remember the name of. What's the name of that? Something that shows up on the map here as having a break in it because it doesn't, you can't drive through. A Temple.
Temple
Yes,
Boulevard
right,
West.
Temple isn't
Temple
a through
Boulevard
street,
East, yeah.
and nobody seems to know why. Except, well, it's funny, I mean, it's one of those things where you say, oh, well, how come? And they say, well, because you can't,
Oh.
which is like, but how come you can't?
That's quite a house they built there, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's like a
it's monstrous.
Oh my,
I mean,
that's a nice
yeah.
piece of property they got.
Oh, yes,
Southern.
they paid a lot of money for it.
Millions.
Yes, I can't remember how we, there was something of an outcry
Mhm.
because people wanted to give it to the refuge, because they didn't want another house built there and
Yeah.
a lot of stuff. Yeah. Okay. Otherwise, I think it's really good, Mike. I think if we can hold if this is gonna be sort of a base for a lot of things, then if we can hold at this detail level as the baseline, and then later on maybe introduce other things which would drop out some of this information. You know what I'm saying? In other words, depending what you're using it for. I did take a quick look at all trails, which is getting even more annoying, but anyway, because you can't get into some of the layers now without painting,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
irritating. But all trails seems to think that Newbury has trails coming out of its ears, which
If you're a mountain biker, we probably do.
well, it depends. I mean, if they're social, yes, but if they're,
Yeah.
actually trails on property which is the property of either a non-profit or the town or somebody else, then it's an interesting question, and it will be as time goes on, as to how legit those are and whether we should make that legit, because that's one of the things I would like to talk about under any other business if we have an item like that.
Yeah, and like, I wouldn't add a trails layer to a map at this scale, because I think it would get lost pretty quickly.
Yes.
It wouldn't really provide you with much usable info. That's why I think I was thinking that, there'd be links to these individual properties on the
Right.
website
Yeah.
that would bring
Yeah.
you to whatever organization's map of that property themselves,
Right.
instead of reinventing the wheel, you would just be able to click a link for Fieldstone Woods and be taken to Greenbelt's map of Fieldstone Woods.
Right.
Type of thing for the web. What we do for like a more physical resource, that's,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
the seal shows up perfectly fine on my
Oh.
PDF.
Thanks.
So that, quality wise
Okay.
was legible when
Okay.
I did that, when I exported it and everything.
Great.
But I can easily drop a more high res
Yeah,
one
I
in
haven't heard
if one
anything
comes
else.
up. Yeah,
So, I'm not sure what Let me know if the sign they were working on is the one on Scotland Road across from you, the Newbury property.
The coffee
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
what sign? Who's
At
working on it?
Coffin's, sorry, going back to the previous conversation about the seal,
Oh,
the Newburyport consultant who was working on doing new signage
Right.
for the city
Gotcha.
had contacted me, and I believe that Coffin's Island was the one he wanted the seal for.
gotcha, yeah, for that
So
partnership
if you ever
sign.
see a new sign there,
I will let you know.
check out the seal and see if it looks like the one you have.
Non-rebuilt sign.
Or,
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny, you know why I thought it was
I went home,
Greenbelt?
I went straight there.
Yeah.
I pulled right into the gates, I was like, I had my flashlight out, and I was like, what's he looking at?
But I understand why now. I thought it
Yeah.
was because it says conservation land and it's about the same scale and
Yeah,
size
absolutely.
as Greenbelt signs, and I guess I had applied the logo out of my own
Yeah.
head.
yeah,
And having gone
Good way.
through that, well, as I think I mentioned to you all before, I went through that whole process.
Right,
uh, which was very frustrating because didn't become clear that it was essentially a financial exercise, was what it was about. It was a tax write-off. And we put a lot of hard work into trying to make that a real plan because we thought they really wanted to build. They didn't,
gotcha.
yeah. Yeah.
well, thanks for all your work on that,
Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Looks great.
I think
Yeah.
it's,
No problem, and yeah, again, going back to the title, I didn't wanna like confuse this as being like all the protected open space in town or anything like that. I just wanted to kinda be able to call out
yeah,
places you can recreate of a wide variety,
Right.
you know? But still open to any suggestions on more appropriate, title for this too, if anybody has any ideas as well.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Cool.
It's definitely a nice high level look at this stuff. So I forgot, is the idea that we can put this on the website right away?
well, so I was just trying to use the technological part of my brain to think about the idea of, if this is a PDF, can you have a bunch of live links on a PDF?
I'm the wrong person
I'm
for that
not
one.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If I have ever
Yeah.
done that, you know, so you,
Yeah.
like you're saying, like I know how to upload a PDF to the town website, and
Yeah.
Alice a pro at our website too now, so we can figure it out. But just getting the document there, and then I'm not sure how
So you want hyperlinks
PDFs have a hyperlink
to take
Well-
it to
of
the web page or
each
something?
Right.
parcel.
I'm sure Adobe has
Yeah.
ways
Some
to
way.
do stuff like that, but Acrobat is the offering. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just actually been through that,
Look at that.
and
Yeah.
you can have links in a PDF copy, but they will not link to all kinds of files. They link to photos quite well, to JPEGs. They obviously link to other PDFs, but they don't link to Word files.
Right.
So in other words, if you,
Yeah,
well,
okay.
so what I did was I took a Word file that had a lot of links in it,
Yep.
made a PDF,
Yep.
and to my great surprise, the links visibly stayed. I didn't expect them to. I thought they'd sort of go into the ether.
Right.
They stayed, and when I hit the ones that were links to JPEGs, they were fine. But when I hit the ones that were links to Word files, what happened was it was going to have to go to another part of my resources in my computer, and therefore if I sent this to somebody as, you know, the
Right.
thumb drive, so I had to make I had to make everything into PDFs, which
Yeah.
was kind of
Right.
a little strange.
It's the example we're talking about, that if this is viewed on the web page, you click on a property to jump down to the blurb section? Or are we talking about something, are you thinking
Oh,
something else?
I don't know, I was going off
Yeah.
Mike's comment about
Yeah.
like going to
Right,
the Greenbelt map,
Right.
or Fieldstone
Or
Way
maybe
or
the
whatever.
hyperlink.
But,
Yeah.
Ella, I heard you have an idea.
okay.
Yeah, so you could just also number two of the places, and then, it's sort of the other map did originally, you number it, and then like below, you could just write,
Right,
like, a link it and write a little thing on it, and then it's also easy to update, it's not update, yeah, it's not update, just update, and let's say.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's the point. So I could go through and add numbers in front of all the different names.
So the text would be on that file, or like the text with the numbers?
Or yeah, you put the numbers on the file, on like the PDF, and then put like the text that links to it on, directly on the website.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
that's what I was thinking, like you'd scroll down, you'd find where it says Wet Meadows, then you click on that as opposed to the map itself
right.
So that would just be an image on your page, on your webpage.
on the webpage. This would be.
Like you wouldn't be able
You
to
wouldn't have any links.
like zoom in.
Um,
We'll have
I
to
don't know.
play around with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're not gonna
You
figure
mean
it
zoom in to
out.
show.
I'm not
more
sure
than-
how,
Or just get a.
like if it was an image on, like, here's your recreational properties map, click, and you go to it, and there's the picture, and then below it, there's text that has hyperlinks to the trail maps.
Yep,
But the image, like we're looking at right here, would just be whatever size fits into your screen for that webpage, right? Like any other,
Yeah.
yep.
you can,
If you did zoom in, like tension zoom, you know
Yeah.
how you can do it,
yeah.
you would still have.
Yeah.
It would be
Well,
a high,
It
if
would
it's
be
high res
static,
enough, you would
yeah.
still.
I can do it right there
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, it wouldn't
Right.
be anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on this, so, you know, to
Right.
the point that this won't do it anymore. One of the irritating things about iPads is you can get it really big and then it shrinks back down again.
Exactly.
well, I'm just saying you'd want the text on the same thing you're looking at with the map, right? Like if you open up the document and then you zoom in
Mhm.
like that, and you're like, oh, the one's there, and then you have to go back to the other. Okay, that's, yeah,
Well, it could be a
So we can
scroll,
we can
Yeah.
figure it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Be a web designer.
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
I guess I'm just aware of the limitations of our website, but.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
we got
Yeah,
it.
that makes sense, yeah.
I'm confident.
Yeah.
So you think add numbers then in front of the individual
Or you
names?
could just make a table, like, of the properties, right?
Yeah,
In alphabetical orders, and
Okay.
those you can click on, and those are active. So you just go down right down, says, I wanna learn more about Wet Meadows, you go down to the bottom in your table, Wet Meadows, click.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
not that many.
You're just scrolling. then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
scroll down
not
with-
jumping
Right.
like
Gotcha.
that by doing a click on the map.
That's, yeah, I think that's the easiest way.
Right.
And maybe we can figure out how to make that pop up and you can click right on the
Exactly,
map,
yeah.
but
And you should be able, I mean, if you do that and you open up a detailed map, you haven't closed where you started the process, so you can
Right.
still, if you've got, for example, two monitors going, you can do,
It opens it.
Sure.
yeah,
in
you
your
can be
browser
looking
tab.
at both at the same time,
I mean,
right?
the other option would
Yeah.
be too that, you know, I mean, every organization on here's maps are public.
Yes,
So, you know, we could literally just have the actual map of Park River Wildlife Refuge on the webpage. You know, Martin Burns, Old Town Hill, whatever it is, we could just have those on the page too, instead of, you know,
Linking
jumping to another organization's website or something. The only ones that won't would be the municipal properties wouldn't have,
yeah.
Right,
unless we created them.
I think it's a good point, because frankly, some organizations are very irritating to try and find the map of
Sure.
the property.
Yeah, some are buried and it's, yeah, it's hard to find or
And the
whatever.
other thing is, I guess what I've learned, is that this is what people use.
Right.
Yeah.
Particularly if they're out somewhere and they want to update or find out where's, for example, one of the things about Greenbelt properties, which I always enjoy, is, okay, where the hell is the parking lot?
Right.
Right? Because there are often more than one, there are sometimes one where there's only one car you can
Yeah.
get in, all the
Yeah.
rest of it. And that sometimes is really tough to find on a phone. And so I think we have to think of the simplest way you can get there without having to go through lots of layers, right?
Yeah.
Because the more layers you are down, the more, certainly speaking for myself, the more vulnerable you are to losing where you are. Do you know what I'm saying? There's nothing worse than having found the map and then for it to go because an ad comes sailing across.
Yeah, we could even, I mean, on the webpage with the list, our page.
Yeah.
We could even, after the couple sentences, you could have the suggested parking spot or something. But I don't think we have to figure that one
Well,
out.
let's take a look at what we have, because it was
Is it already
actually
there?
pretty good. So if we just update this,
Right,
I don't know if your map can
right, can swap.
use the same letters or new ones. But this is already in there. I think Ella did a great job, just kind of cleaning this up a little. But you can also, so it has, and then down here it has, that's how you can get to it bigger.
Right.
Yeah, right.
But that page, I was like, this page, when I was envisioning before how tiny the map is,
Yeah.
like, I can't do anything with this. It's just there. Like, I can, like, I don't know, right? Like, if I was on an iPad, I could probably go like that. But I can't make it bigger.
And are we restricted to that kind of
So-
size there, or is that like something just stock in the
It
town
might-
website
There,
options?
it might be.
Okay,
Well, how did you
But-
get to the bigger version?
There,
It's
down
different.
here, there's just a link. I know that
Oh, okay.
Ella figured a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
so,
okay.
great. So I don't know, I think maybe that just whatever structure there is for like a page probably has some kind of limitation on the size of that graphic right there.
Okay.
But it's very
Well-
easy to have that link. I mean, just even moving that up.
But it should
Right
be,
here.
yeah, but it should be possible, because if you get a feed from the newspaper and there's a photograph embedded in the article, very often you can hit the photograph and you get a bigger version, but there are times when that version is limited, and what I learned is that sometimes it's not limited by technology but by license. In other words, you can't see a bigger version because they won't
They
release
want
a
you
bigger,
to
yeah,
buy it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that wouldn't be the case here.
Right,
But that was
Okay.
all pulled off original files that were done to print out something,
Right.
to make a little brochure,
Right.
threefold brochure.
right. It's good though. I mean, this is pretty good
It would
content
be, I
already.
mean, just going back to the phone, because
Yeah.
the map shows up right away, you know, people are gonna probably wanna say, how do I?
Yeah.
Click
they
on that
can-
right there.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I wonder if there is in the authoring system, the content management system, television, you know, where there
We
are
can-
ways to, there may be ways to show an image that also allows it to be opened up,
yeah,
you know, as its own file and make it a little more
yeah.
better resolution, right?
Yeah.
You know, so you can just.
But maybe like, instead of letters across the board here, maybe we should just organize it by organization. You know, like it's, you know, Town of Newbury, Great Meadow, Magic Field, Upper and Lower Green, whatever, you know, the trustees,
following your.
Old Town Hill, yeah, you know, like, cause some organizations have multiple properties in town. I'm just thinking it would match up to the legend on the existing map too. Or I could change it with a lettering system, you know, and we just are, you know. What if we just kept it broad, and we don't have to worry about letters, and if an organization does a new
Yeah,
project or the town does something, that's just falling under that heading of each group.
yeah, except, are you saying, like, how would you know if you want, like, if you were looking at the list of green properties or whatever, how would you know which one is?
Well, it'd still be labeled on the map.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
you're like,
So
okay, I
it's-
wanna check out Martin
Yeah,
Burns,
yeah.
you know, and you see that that's Mass Wildlife
Yeah.
on the legend.
Yeah.
You scroll down and there's
And
Mass
there it is.
Wildlife's the heading, and it has Martin Burns and Bill Ford and Crane Pond,
Yeah.
you know, read.
Yeah, well, the reason for
Under that kind of
using
grid heading.
letters was because it was black and white, not color.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
That was-
right,
Okay, couldn't use color
that's right.
because that, we were able to, you know, just print it in the office kind of thing. And even put it up on the website before the town website was any kind of sophisticated thing. Could only really cope.
Yep,
In fact, we tried it with color and it collapsed. Yeah, there wasn't enough, you know, memory, I think, available on the website or something. I can't remember. Where is that, by the way?
open space committee, there's a drop down on the left. There's a.
Yeah,
table
so,
of
okay,
contents.
well, so what I went, interesting, of course, under
Uh-huh.
maps and directions, which is one of the ones on the home page, you don't get that. So somebody was asleep at the switch.
The home page of the website,
Yeah, go to the
Or
home.
the open space
Yeah,
thing.
and hit maps and directions. You get map of Newbury, map of historic Newbury. You don't get a map that frankly is of much use at all.
yeah, I'm
Because
sure that hasn't, nobody's, I don't know who has
nobody,
the
there's nobody running
attention
the
on that
store.
particular button,
Yeah.
but, I mean, now that you've told me about that button, I certainly can get the open space map linked to that,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
it's already there, so,
because the map of Newbury that they use is not a good one anyway.
yeah.
If you hit view larger map, it's, you know, it's not good.
Google Maps, yeah. Yep.
It is, however, picking up where we are, but
You're right, Pat. Yeah.
Big Brother is watching.
Okay,
Okay.
is any of that useful, Mike, for the next
Yes,
iteration?
no, it definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely
yeah.
is.
I like the idea of like using the color that we have and bundling it that way,
Yeah.
yeah. Organizing it that way.
Okay.
And, so Mike's gonna reorganize that map, and then, are you, Chris, did you look at how to get it on the website, or look into that a little bit?
Yes.
What's the capabilities of the website? Okay.
Yes.
So it's, did minutes?
I'm sorry about the agenda edit.
No.
I have minutes on there twice.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I moved it up and forgot to take it out.
All right.
That's fine, yeah, that's great.
That's all right.
All right, so we're doing pretty good here. We just had other items not reasonably anticipated. When I was, well, so you gave us that nice little slideshow of all the, how poor the access points were.
Yes.
And I was thinking about that. And then, while I was doing that, I get the EEA like updates, on funding. And so there was one about, open space and how the state has like 5 to 7 grants that they put out. It's on their webpage. I think it's probably happened for a while now. They put $27 million into the Commonwealth, into cities and towns, different municipalities, funding projects for open space, lake parks and stuff. So, and the dollar amounts was from $100,000 up to $500,000. So the cities, like Brighton, places like that, they got like $500,000. But some of the suburb city, the smaller towns, and it's broken down by how big the population is in the town, they got up to $100,000. So it was really interesting, and I'm like, this is, in my mind, like why we're doing this plan, because that's the next step. We talk about it and stuff, but then I was like, wow, here it is. This is really real money. So when I talked to other towns that have open space committees, and I was talking to some of their chairs, they're like, there's a lot of money out there if you know how to go get it, and if you want to go get it. And then I was like, oh, this is what he's talking about. So I can forward you that, it's on their website, but I'll forward it to the group. It's a press release, and it has a little bit of information, and then it talks, then you can go and drill down a lot deeper into individual grants that become available. I haven't done that yet.
Right.
It's something that, once we get this, finalized and we get rolling, this it was just exciting to me. It's like, wow, there's a lot of money out there to be had if we can go get it.
To be used in ways beyond,
Yeah,
like a variety of ways, I assume, yeah.
for sure.
Especially if it's
Use-
Brighton versus.
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about,
rural.
public access or handicap access to parks or
Right,
something like
right.
that, but there was purchasing for land, and
Yeah.
like your access, the example you gave, I'm like, wow, I bet you this would be a perfect example of a way to improve these public access sites.
Right.
Through signage
Right,
and
right.
define parking or something, so.
Yeah.
Now, how you get it from, like, we identify it, we get the grant, and how do you actually put that into motion, I'm not sure yet.
Right, yeah.
But we'll,
Yeah, no,
that's what we'll work on.
those are decent dollar amounts.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Right.
There's so many grants.
Right.
It's one of the things that is like a little bit highly stressful to me, because I just see them
Yeah.
and I never have enough time, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, so that's why I appreciate all of you so much, because I do think just getting these planner, I like plans, but the point is to get it up there and then just be like, we wanna do this, we wanna do this, we wanna do this, and you've got them all laid out, and then you just like, go get it done, right? And you have more ability to be reactive, but the most, with grants, you gotta know what you want ahead of time.
Yeah.
And you have to have all the partners on board.
Yeah.
Meaning even internally, right, like different committees, and that's why the outreach to the rec committee is so important,
Yep.
because of this, we're not just preserving forever wild properties, we have this broader public interest of recreational access of all
Could
kinds.
be agriculture, could be trails, could be all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
There's tons out there, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the ones that I just saw today, that's like, right now, it's available, is the Municipal Vulnerability Program has action grants, and that is, every town's eligible. They just continue to fund that program really significantly, and they just want people who haven't gotten one of those grants in a while to get back in. And I think it's been 3 years since Newbury got an MVP grant. We previously did the planning, we got a grant to do the municipal vulnerability plan, which is a climate resiliency assessment community planning process. I think that was back 2018, maybe? Were you part of that? Maybe you weren't, you were
No,
back
no,
then.
no.
And then there have been some action grants that have primarily been focused on Plum Island resiliency kind of stuff. But for instance, I was talking to a resident who lives on Pine Island Road when the town was recently repaving it, and it was like why aren't we doing some high marsh culverts? And I was like, yeah, like, yes, because that road's gonna keep flooding and we're gonna keep throwing pavement on it. And there are other ways, there are other causeways that are doing different kinds of resiliency and blah, blah. So, that MVP, the way, it's kind of a long process. Right now, they're just looking for letters of interest. So you can just kind of do a really preliminary, like, paragraph or two about something. So that would be, even if there's an early idea, I mean, again, it's capacity, like, right now we're focusing on, like, getting the plan created, but, even if they're smaller things, it's not a bad idea. Many of the grants do have matching funds required, like MVP has a 25% match, I think. So, like, right now on FY25, I'm not sure Newbury has a match for it, but that's part of the funding discussion as well.
It'd be fun or interesting, I guess, because we're small, right? And the town would be very small and we're just getting started, but if we could, like, at least one a year or something, like, drill down and get the partners. Because that's like, because I do grants too. And whenever I apply for a grant, I try to include as many people or people that are affected by it or have, like, some type of influence or whatever, and bring them in on board. And so then once you have letters of support, you put that in a packet. That's really powerful, and that works really well.
Yeah.
You can document to them that already you have everything's set up, ready to go. We just need to get approved and get the funds, and usually.
So would an example be then for the resilience piece, because we've identified that in the plan as something that wasn't in the previous version, right?
Yeah.
And it's the new thing, right? So if from there I'm gonna forget the name of the section, but the action, the goals and the action items, whatever it's labeled, like having it very explicit there would and obviously be very referenceable in all we can act, I guess, in a very nice, powerful, right? Even if it is coming from the planning side, not the open space, right?
Yeah.
You're still
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah, and to identify the benefits and say that it's a priority of the community as was identified through the survey, all of that.
Yeah.
I was thinking actually one of the MVP action grants that Newbury got was for Cart Creek, which is the culvert work that's being done on Middle Road right now that's causing the detour. On Orchard Street, sorry.
It was a confusion.
Yeah.
Better name.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yes,
we all did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orchard Street.
Right.
So vulnerability, though, does have a focus. In other words, it tends to be focused on transportation, threats to transportation, to communication, that kind of stuff.
It's pretty broad because I know a town that got a big MVP grant for land acquisition.
On what basis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did they?
Part of the acquisition was related to water supply protection.
Yeah.
I think that was the primary.
Uh-huh.
But it also had recreational and, obviously habitat and.
Right.
So
but
even like heat island stuff, like they're pretty broad with MVP.
Yeah, but still there we're talking about infrastructure, right? I mean, water protection is part of, the whole infrastructure that you need, even though it doesn't have necessarily infrastructure on it. But, it's in other words, it's part of the land, as it were. That's all I'm just wondering.
I mean, I'm trying to think of something that wouldn't have some component. Like, I don't think they'd fund, they would not fund an accessible playground on a park.
Right, well,
like, it's not the park funding, that's.
Right, it's not for a tennis court because that makes
Correct.
people healthier. I mean, it's not
Correct.
that kind of thinking.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that might play into what I wanted to bring up if we're sort of through with talking about this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was out at Great Meadow just the other day, and one of the things struck me about Great Meadow is that it is a underutilized resource for a couple of reasons. One is because of the way it happened, it never really emerged onto the open space radar very fully at first, okay? Which is just a story you don't need to sort of go into, but basically it was, again, a tax issue, essentially. It made a lot of sense. But right now, it has inadequate parking, right? And it has no real trail structure except for social trails. It also has a couple of areas which really are very interesting from a trail perspective in terms of developing one. And coincidentally, the day that I was there, when I met, I don't know whether you know the specific place, I think maybe Bill, do you know Orchard Street at all? There's a very sharp bend, and on the corner there's a very dark house.
Is it brick?
No, it's okay.
Oh, I know exactly which one it is.
At the curve.
Yeah,
There's
it
really
used
close
to,
to it.
right,
a barn
yeah.
across.
Right,
yeah.
well, it used to be
Understand.
a tavern, okay, originally, and it became a farm and a bunch of things, and it's currently owned by some people I know quite well, who are, how shall I say, both quite Newberry, quote unquote, and also interesting folk, because Neil's an artist and his wife is very much involved in the arts. She's worked at places like Worcester Art Museum and so on. Anyway, I met him and his dog,
Yeah.
and the dog went off, and that got us talking about sort of the potentials and how you, not so much advertise, but how you create the profile of a recreational property. In other words, is a place like that very suited to exercising dogs? Well, one of the things we sort of decided, casually, was that yes, if they're well trained, frankly, like retrievers, gun dogs, etc., but not if they're your typical pooch who runs madly off into the distance, pursued by the owner saying, Harry, come back, as it were. Point about this led me to thinking one of the things that happens classically in small towns, and Newbury's no exception, in fact it might be the rule, and that is we acquire resources and just let them kind of sit there. And I think in many ways Great Meadow is, and that was further triggered because I happened to bump into a bunch of trustee employees who were working at Old Town Hill, and lo and behold, news to me, the Northeast region now employs somebody who is quote unquote a trail expert. Now, I don't know whether he actually used the word expert, but anyway, he's clearly has professional training in developing trails, okay? So there's a potential resource that I had no idea existed. But it got me thinking that the whole pattern here is, and what Bill mentioned about the Plum Island thing in relation to the grants and so on, is of Newbury sort of taking a step and then just kind of not remembering that it did. And currently, Great Meadow is very accessible because someone is quite productively haying it.
Yeah.
But I think if somebody wasn't productively haying it, my guess is it would be overgrown. And the classic example, I know I brought it up before, but I will again, is the property across the street from me, which the town acquired for $250,000, okay, with the idea of putting, I think, basketball courts and various things. Yeah, there are actually some plans out there, I think, actually sort of sketch plans anyway. Well, now it's classic, the beginnings of second growth forest with, it looks as though somebody had a sort of a go at a Christmas tree farm. And yet, it's, I'm trying to remember how many acres it is, 3 acres, something like that. Yeah, and rather strategically located in that it's right next to the library and the ball field, but I don't think anyone really knows it's there.
Well, the rec committee does, but
Yeah, well,
have their hands full with lots of things, and that's not their top priority, I think.
right, well, part of the reason is that it has an issue that if you're going to use it as formal recreation, you need parking, right? Witness Manta Field. I mean, there's 2-3 acres devoted to parking there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and right now, if you have an exciting popular ball game, you can't go to the library because,
Right.
because the whole parking lot for the library is taken up by the ball game, and there are people on Lunt Street and da 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 da.
Yeah.
So that's an issue that's there. And I don't know. Again, that there's been a really sensible discussion about whether that, even though it was, quote, bought for recreation, it was done with frankly it wasn't assayed in any substantive way. Nobody went and really looked at it. And they didn't discover that there were significant wetlands between Kent Way and the major part of the property until, well, it was kind of weird, until after they bought it.
So your point is
My-
that we need people to maintain town-owned properties?
I think we need two things. We need to have an active, essentially, maintenance and development program for all of the properties that we own. That needs to be in the hands not of the Department of Public Works, but I think a different kind of group. And I think we need to look at what the potential is for the properties which the town does own and did acquire, either for passive recreation or with some idea that it was for formal recreation. And in a way, to me, unless we do that kind of thing, then anything that might be bigger really is kind of, running before we can walk. Because I have to say that the day that I drove down Northern Boulevard looking for beach access was depressing. I mean, I know it was pouring with rain, but I've never seen such a sort of municipal abandonment of what could be a really delightful, attractive, functional, way of, resource, and also, frankly, it would bring to the fore an issue which a lot of people don't want to talk about. I'm not saying us, and that is the town has consistently for decades, walked away from the parking issue on Plum Island, and continues to do, because it's not very easy to kind of figure out what to do about it. But at the same time, it's fascinating other communities manage to. And so why we don't, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, so to me, we have a lot of stuff which we're not really using at the level that it could be used, because one, and I think what we've been talking about earlier, is people are not aware of it, they don't know how to get to it, there's not a decent map, there's et cetera, et cetera. But also I think too, there are places which are not inviting, and essentially, I don't think people feel that it's theirs, quote unquote. If you know what I mean, it's somehow, it's not public.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you take Great Meadow and you take the back part of Mantor where the Boy Scouts had the trail,
Yep.
which used to be, a good little loop to do while
Yeah.
the kids are warming up for the soccer game or whatever.
Yeah.
But now it's got the family walkway or boardwalk, whatever you want to call that.
Right.
You can't really, and it's
Yeah, they
overgrown,
have
et cetera, right? So like, I think between that and Great Meadow, which, on the map are two, I think, hot premier properties, right? To a certain
Sure.
extent, that, something along the lines of what you're talking about, where maybe there's
And the connection.
low-level stewardship,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And maybe, the Greenbelt and others, have ideas on how the town can approach that or something, because I'm sure you guys think, right? You think
But
about it all the
also
time, right?
Bodies and equipment.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
exactly.
Maintenance is the hardest, it's the hardest thing.
Exactly.
It's the hardest thing.
Right.
It doesn't take very long to lose control
Exactly.
if you're trying to maintain control.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean,
But-
dedicated resources.
Yeah, but
Really?
maybe there's a minimalist thing, like even just, so you take Great Meadow, not to prolong the conversation about it, but when you show up and there's the 3 or 4 sort of, the parking area that is a rectangle spot that you really don't know what to do there, like, and there probably aren't,
It's-
more
yeah,
than, probably
it's-
aren't more than 3 or 4 cars coming in an entire day.
You can't get more than 3, and if
Yeah.
one person parks in a weird way, forget
It's
it.
all screwed up. But then, when you either make your way around the gate or through the little rise where the trees are and you
Yeah.
can see sort of a trail, then you immediately, I imagine you hit mud and a wet spot there, right? So it's like,
Depending on the
just the
season.
starting point is kind of suspect. So maybe there are things in the long run we can,
Well-
think about with regards to this without turning it into.
Well, I say when we buy all this property up, like, we need to try to, with all our grant money.
Absolutely.
But it is,
You know,
yeah,
like,
you guys.
I mean,
Yeah.
the town could,
Right.
budget for, routine maintenance of some of the stuff too. It doesn't have to be, weekly as much as maybe we might want a trail to be mowed weekly or something like that, but I mean, even Greenbelt, we've had to move in that direction
Yeah.
just because of volume, and it's not a lot to pay somebody with a tractor and a brush hog to, mow a lollipop trail through a field or something like that, but that might be kind of the solution for,
Exactly.
that upkeep if it can't be handled, in-house.
I would almost say our town is, people love to kind of sometimes,
Yeah,
if they know it's there, somebody might even step up and just. do it.
they sure might, and I mean,
Yeah.
and we've had that experience too, where neighbors have said, hey, I see you over here mowing, well, I have a mower and I like to use this all the time and I can cut this for you and I'll call you when I'm on vacation and let you know that I'm not gonna be able to do it, and,
Yeah.
we've had that situation that's worked out really well too.
Yeah.
Ownership to it, such a sense of pride to it too,
Well,
It's kinda nice.
the other area which is classic, and I'd forgotten, is the connection, quote unquote, between Triton and the Manta Fields,
Going
which
downhill.
has all kinds of wetland problems,
Yep.
except it's sort of there, and it's sort of used. If it freezes over, you can use it, and if it dries out, you can use it, but in spring and fall, you perhaps can't, whatever. but that would be a major, you know, I mean, it would expand, because the whole idea eventually is that it hooks up with the farms, of course, on the other side of things. And so then you would have essentially a whole trail network along the valley, the river.
Right.
You know, there would be a sort of Parker River. Yeah, right. Which is very possible because among other people, you know, several years ago now, I talked to, you know, what do they call the religious place?
That'll group.
Yeah, Adeline Ruth. And they were very much in favor of being part of not only offering, because they wanted to do that, but also they felt that it was something that they could encourage their people to feel that there was a sort of a larger, you know, place that you could go and walk and find meditation spaces and things and so on.
Yeah.
You know, so in a way, it's that kind of level of stuff where you don't have to have, you know, a major project, but doing little things to link stuff up that already exists
Yeah.
is probably more important. It's not as glamorous, you know, but I think it's important in the sense of really using what we have.
Yeah. Yeah,
There'll be a challenge, something that we'll have to address down the road, I'm sure.
right,
Figure out how that gets paid for, yeah.
yeah.
It does work.
Well,
It's 2 points.
yeah, I mean, but that's, okay, that's a whole other issue, of course, which we probably need to get our ducks in a row before we address that. And that is, does the town want to pay for things?
Right.
And what does that mean? Who is that person?
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well,
Okay.
we're winding down, we try to keep this a little shorter tonight, to an hour and a half, we're over that a little bit now. But, we need to set, next meeting dates,
Yes.
so we're gonna be coming up against the holidays pretty soon. I think we go in a month, it's gonna get pretty close to Thanksgiving. And I would hope we'd hear back by then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, my calendar automatic thing plonked us down on the 19th of November.
I think we've been trying for the third Tuesdays, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
And that
that's-
is the third Tuesday.
Okay.
Yep.
That was the week before Thanksgiving.
Right, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's well clear of Thanksgiving. And we might still all be here because it's a number of days after the election, etc. Or not, as the case may be. But, yeah, does that look good?
On my calendar it does, I can't speak for Christina
No.
that far out, although she does give me all her dates, and right now it looks okay. So we could pencil that in. And then, and actually I could do the 26th too, for some reason that did work, so I'm pretty flexible there.
I probably could too.
Yeah. You could do a backup, maybe.
Okay. Well, let's, towards the aim of keeping on a somewhat consistent
Yeah.
schedule.
Yep.
We try for the 19th, but, yeah.
Sounds good.
Happy Thanksgiving over there in Canada.
That's right.
That was
It's already
yesterday, right?
I know, came much earlier.
What'd you do to celebrate?
Actually, I went out to dinner, because most people went home, so
Oh,
it worked. Last week's family.
is there a classic, like, meal, though, for Canadian Thanksgiving?
I think they do the same, like that's something.
They do.
I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
a
hard.
commercial opportunity not to be missed.
Yeah,
Right.
lots of turkeys up there too. Well, thanks for tuning in, Ella.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good seeing you.
Bye.
Okay. Did we adjourn, I guess? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make
Did
a
you
motion to adjourn the
Second,
October 15th meeting.
all in favor, say aye. Yes, we are all in
Aye.
favor. Don't all rush to the door at the same time.